Welcome to the AfriKindness Teen Talk Series 2. I'm Temi Owolabi, one of your teen hosts, and I'm really excited to be with you all today for another powerful and uplifting session. Before we dive in, we'd love to know where you're joining us from. Please take a moment to drop your location in the chat. It's always amazing to see how global our community is, and to see where from around the world everyone is. Welcome Mercy from Leeds. It's nice to have you around. A lot of people from Leeds as well. Thank you. Morenike from Nigeria, welcome. So thank you everyone. If this is your first time joining with us, the Teen Talk series is a space created by teens for teens, where we come together to unmute ourselves, share our voices, and have real conversations that matter. Our theme today is all about engineering, and we will be engaging a role model in that field. These sessions are designed to empower us, spark curiosity, and help us see what's possible in the future, especially listening to people who are breaking barriers and making a difference in their fields. So let's get ready to be inspired. Now it's time to introduce someone truly special. Our guest speaker for today is Engineer Titi Olide. Engineer Titi is a chartered engineer with a strong background in chemical engineering and more than 10 years of experience in safety engineering. She's worked on high-impact projects across the energy sector, transport infrastructure, and green hydrogen industries, all areas that are shaping the future of our world. Engineer Titi's story goes far beyond her impressive technical skills. She's deeply passionate about breaking barriers in engineering and making the profession more inclusive for everyone. Through her work, she helps demystify engineering, especially for young people who might not see themselves represented in her field. She's a STEM outreach leader, a blog writer, and a mentor who supports other engineers on their journey to professional success. Her work has been recognized at the highest levels. In fact, she was named the 2023 IET Young Woman Engineer of the Year, and she's been featured in the Women's Engineering Society's Top 50 Women in Engineering. Today, she's here with us to share her journey, lessons learned, and advice for us all who are thinking about our futures, especially in STEM or in leadership. So please, let's give a warm virtual round of applause to welcome Engineer Titi Olide.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction as well.
Engineer TT, yeah. You've had such an amazing journey from engineering into safety engineering and worked on high-profile projects across several sectors, including energy and transport. What's your specialization in engineering?
So thank you very much for that question. And yeah, as I said before, I'm happy to be here. So my area of specialization, my background is in chemical engineering, so since I started working, my area of specialization has been in safety engineering and sort of working on different projects. Of course, I've also picked up a lot of skills along the way as well. But I'll talk about that. What safety engineering really means, and that means it's an area of engineering whereby you work with other engineers to sort of ensure that, so other engineers across various disciplines, so making sure that the solutions that we provide as engineers, which is really what engineering is about, right? It is about solving problems. And so what safety engineers do in particular is to make sure that those solutions that we provide to solve problems do not then cause harm. So what we're doing is looking at the design, the process, the whole process generally anyway, which is from, thinking about a problem, thinking up a solution to that problem, designing it, then constructing it, and then, operating it. And then when we're, even done with that as well, maybe we need to, take it apart, which in a process that's known as decommissioning. And so when we do that as well, so all throughout those different processes, what safety engineers are doing is to make sure that those processes are done in the safest way possible, so that, as we are solving a problem, we're not then creating another problem as well. And so, yeah, that's what we do. We look at systems, we design them as they're being designed. We help in the design, we help shape the design, we analyze them as well, and we look at what can go wrong. So we are sort of, looking ahead to see what can go wrong. And when we then identify what can go wrong, we then look at, okay, how can we prevent that situation from happening? So how can we prevent it from going wrong? What do we need to control? Do we need to put extra processes or equipment in place and all of that? So yeah, it can be quite challenging, but overall, I think that's the way I've been able to enjoy the part of engineering that I'm working in as well. So hopefully that has given you an understanding of what engineering or what safety engineering particularly is like. And so it'd be great to understand, who's, wanting to be an engineer here, or if you kind of know that that sounds interesting to you in terms of what you want to do when you become an older person. Yes, exactly. It is quite challenging, but yeah, it can also be quite rewarding as well.
Thank you. Congratulations on all your awards. That's really inspiring. Can you tell us a bit more about what they are for and how to achieve them? Did you write like an examination to win the awards?
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that question. So it's not, I didn't have to write an exam, thank goodness, for the awards. But I did have to, write sort of what's the word now? To sort of put together a story around my achievements and, the things I've done in my career so far. So yeah, that was a bit less pressure than exams, I guess. But also an opportunity for me to sort of think through and understand the impact of what I've done. So I'll talk about the main one, which is the Young Woman Engineer of the Year award that I got awarded by the IET. And so the IET is the Institution of Engineers and Technology, and they are the largest institution of engineers in the UK, and they have over 150,000 members worldwide. And basically, that award is given to a high achieving problem solver, team player, and a brilliant female representative of the engineering profession. So, yeah, hearing all these words about how it's, how that describes the winner of the award, I definitely felt great to and honored to be awarded that to be given that award. And it also made me feel quite humble, because I felt it's sort of a way for me to um I accepted that this is a result of my achievements of what I've done, and it's an opportunity for me to also show others that it is possible, to achieve such things. And, just by doing things daily and, just going about your work in the best way possible, it is very easy. It's then possible to achieve, such great, things as well. So, yeah.
My next question is about identity. How has identity influenced the choices you've made in life? How did becoming an engineer make you learn about who you are? And also, when did you first realize you had something special to offer in this field?
Yeah, I really like this question because I think for me, in terms of identity, I'd say majorly I'm a Christian, and growing up and even understanding how that helps me as well to shape what I do. Is very important to understand what you do as a person, right? And so I'll say most of my identity comes from Christian values and all of that. And that, in terms of then taking that into my work and becoming an engineer, I think that helps me sort of want to make a positive impact in everything that I do. So both in the work that I do and even with the people I work with as well. So I would definitely say, as I became an engineer and, have worked in the space for some time now, it has helped me to realize that I like solving problems and I like working on things where I can see the impact of what I'm doing. And it's also great that, I always enjoy and thrive the most when I'm working with people on, a shared goal and purpose that everyone sort of understands and is bought into that vision as well. So I'll say it's definitely I I, I didn't have a specific time where I had I would say, I there wasn't a specific moment I would say that I knew that I had something special offer to the field. But I would say, I keep learning what's making me unique, and that's the most important thing for me, to understand what is the thing that I can bring to any project, to any, thing that I'm doing, that is all that is only me that can bring that, or what's the thing I can do that, how can I do things in a way that people would know that, okay, she's doing it in a way that only she could do it. So I think I keep learning what makes me unique, what helps me to stand out. And I would say that, what helps me to stand out is a mixture of, or is a combination of, sort of my experiences, so my exposure, my expertise as well, the different things I've done, the different projects that I've worked on, the different things that, I like doing as well, and also the way I express myself. So I would say, definitely that's how I've sort of helped. That's how being an engineer has helped me become, that's how becoming an engineer has made me learn more about who I am, and, how I sort of offer something special to the field as well. So yeah, thank you.
I've seen that the kind of work we do often reflect who we are, our interests, strengths, and even our personality. For some people, like engineers, it's not just about solving problems, but
Mhm.
how they show up while doing it. So
Exactly.
I'd like to ask a few questions about identity and about it and how it connects to your work. Engineer TT, what makes you you in your work as an engineer, and what personal qualities of traits do you bring to your role?
Thank you for that question. I think I'll say my top characteristics are, attention to detail, whilst keeping an eye on the big picture as well. So I also know that whilst so sometimes when I read things, or when I read about people and they say, oh, I like attention to detail, or I, I like looking at the big picture. I'm like, oh, but I'm a little bit of both. And so I think that sort of, that's part of what makes me me in my work as well, because I think, you know there are not many people like that as well. I'll say the other thing that's a top characteristic is understanding what impacts that, my work does, or what's my impact, what's the impact of my my own contribution to a team project, and even on the team project as well, what is the, big goal in this in this project as well. So I work in the energy industry, for example, and there are different ways, or there are different aspects of, how we can get energy um for different things as well. Energy is a big topic for in the world right now, um which I'm sure you're aware of, in terms of, the way it affects climate change as well. And so, just being able to understand that, and I think just being that having that understanding of how, that impacts, so it's not just numbers for me in engineering. It's also about, what's the impact of that project going to have on, the world at large, or a particular community, or, that sort of thing. So it's understanding that. And I would say another thing that's a top characteristic for me is kindness when working with people. So, I always want to make sure that, people live with the best, with they live feeling better about themselves. And, growth is also something that, is very important as well. So I would say, yeah, those are my top characteristics. And yeah, if you would like to, share what sort of personal qualities that, you have noticed in yourself, that you think, would help you, as you grow older, and no matter what career you choose. Is anybody going to share what they think they would like? What characteristics they think they have that, would be beneficial for their career? Yes, honesty. Honesty is very important. Yes, definitely, definitely. Yes, yes, confidence and patience, patience. Yeah, no, I like patience as well, and respect. Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, those are things that, when you're working with people, it's not just a job. When you start working with people, I mean, yeah, you tend to spend, they become like your second family. And so you're spending a lot of time with them. So yeah, skills is also very important. So yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Yeah, I think all the characteristics that you've mentioned, no matter where what career you're working in, those are all important things to be able to, thrive and, create impact in what you're doing as well, with a group of people.
Thank you very much. Um, I'll start my question now. When I was younger, I thought I wanted to be a vet just because I like dogs.
Okay.
Then in high school, I switched up to wanting to become a YouTuber, then a psychologist. Now I'm kind of lost again. It feels like everyone else has a plan, and I'm still trying to like figure out who I am. Right now, everyone's asking me what I want to be when I grow up. And honestly, right, I have no clue. Right.
Mhm.
I'm still figuring out who I am. It's kind of scary, feeling like I'm supposed to have it all together already. So I'm wondering, did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, I can definitely, relate to that in a way. So in a way, so I'll tell you my story first of all. So um I started off loving maths. I think for me, that's the one thing that I can definitely remember about my childhood. Like I loved maths so much. I even loved it so much. I would start going to like, solve my elder sister's questions as well and all of that. So, and I also used to love talking. So, growing up in Nigeria, if you loved math, you kind of would be in a science sort of, so yeah, I guess it makes sense that I ended up in engineering, right? But I also love talking, and if you love talking, they kind of say, oh, maybe you can become a lawyer, or maybe a journalist and all of that. Um and yeah, so I liked quite a few subjects, but yeah, as well. So I thought, okay, maybe I could do this or I could do that. But I would say one thing that, when I started thinking, okay, what would I actually want to do when I grow up? I thought, okay, I wanted to be a math teacher, but then I also thought, I could also be a journalist because I used to love reading newspapers to my dad and to my granddad while growing up as well, right? So I thought, okay, and then there was this lady as well that we used to watch on CNN, and I just thought, just so cool to, travel around as well. But yeah, maybe not so cool to have to go to some areas, but I just thought, I liked that as well. So I can totally relate to, changing your mind one time, or like, thinking, oh, this could be it, and then, sort of going, thinking that, okay, I could do something else, right? And so I would say, don't stress. That's the first thing I would say. Don't stress. A lot of adults are even still figuring out what they want to be like career wise as well. And I think the way the world is going as well, in terms of, in fact, the way the world is now, um, you could do different things at the same time. So there's what's called like a portfolio career now as well, where you could be a psychologist and you could be a YouTuber as well. Yeah, that's not also that's not you know uncommon now as well. So you could do different things, and as long as you have like a common, and it's up to you in terms of you bringing your uniqueness into it to sort of find that common thread between it, right? And sometimes the common thread between everything that you do might just be you. The fact that it's you, you're the person that so there are psychologists, right? And there are people on YouTube, but then maybe you could just be that person that understands both, and you could speak about it on YouTube and do that. So exactly, if you bring your uniqueness to whatever you're doing, I think that's really great as well. So I can definitely say, yeah, so I can relate to that. And in terms of how I then became a chemical engineer, I'd say, it's a combination of being a like sort of understanding, like guidance from my parents, in terms of when I actually wanted to then study. I pick my course for university, and then I also spoke to one of my sister's friends as well, who was quite instrumental in, okay, I at some point I thought, okay, I'll do engineering, but then what sort of engineering? Because I think at the time my university offered about 10 or 11 types of engineering. So it was like, okay, I know I want to be in the faculty of engineering, but what exactly do I want to study as well? And then so getting into that, yeah, so I got into it, and I liked it, I enjoyed it, and I've worked in that mostly so far. But actually, even in my career as well, I've worked in industries as well that you would think are not typically chemical engineering related as well. And so I'll say, keep being curious and finding out, what you like, and what you don't like about particular, sectors and all of that. And yeah, don't be afraid to also pivot. I think that's something that, again, whenever you pivot, you might not necessarily be starting from scratch. You are starting from an experienced position as well. So I'll definitely say, don't stress and just enjoy the ride, and just keep being, I like what we wrote before in terms of keep being just keep at the back of your mind that you are unique, and you are the unique thread in it. So yeah, don't stress, and just be curious to try out things. And sometimes that might be difficult. I know that might be easier said than done sometimes, because when you don't see people that have done something that when you don't see people that have followed the exact path that you have followed, sometimes that might feel a bit daunting. But hey, that's an opportunity for you to be a trailblazer as well in your field. So yeah, I'll definitely say that's it.
Thank you very much. So, what would you say to someone who's still trying to figure out their identity and isn't sure where they're headed?
So I'll say, definitely, if you're still trying to figure out your identity, try things. And I'll say definitely, first of all, sit with yourself and sort of think about it. And I'll say, try out things. Don't because it's also in doing and in practicing things that you sort of see, so if you tried out a sport, for example, and you realized, okay, actually, you know what, maybe I'm not very athletic, or and then you think to yourself, or maybe you try out things and then you realize that actually I'm quite this is how I build my resilience as well. So you start to find out things about yourself when you try out things, try out leadership positions as well, try out opportunities to work in a team, just, different sports, different activities that you are able to do. I think that would help you figure out your identity as you go along as well. And then don't be afraid to also, learn from other people's stories. So, examples like, this series is really great because sometimes when you hear other people talk about their life's journey, it could then spark up something in your mind for you to say, um, actually I can resonate with this, or maybe I think I'm the other way around. So yes, I'll definitely say those are opportunities for you to figure that out. And again, it's a gradual process. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Um, where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Africa at all, and what part of Africa?
Yes, so I grew up in Nigeria, and I only moved to the UK in, I'll say, my early 20s, after my first degree. And there's the program in Nigeria that's called the National Youth Service. Yeah, so that's when I moved to the UK.
Okay. I asked because growing up in Nigeria is a unique experience. It comes with challenges, but it still has like its own lessons, culture, and resilience. But it's also part of our identity for some of us who have lived in Africa or have parents who are Africans. For many of us who have lived in Africa, it also changes how we view the world and how we connect to others beyond our borders. So how has growing up in Nigeria changed how you see the world?
Yes, I'd say it has made me it has contributed a lot to me wanting to solve problems and provide solutions. So I think definitely there are challenges all over the world and that need to be solved. So especially when you think about, even like the industry that I work in, which is energy. I did grow up with, power cuts being the norm, some or quite frequent as well. So I'll definitely say that, that sort of has had a huge impact on me wanting to work in the energy sector. And I'll say, that opportunity so whilst there are challenges all around the world, I'll say they are more apparent. And then there's also that sort of that spirit there that sort of wants you to be part of the solution. And I would say, definitely having those sort of strong values, growing up in Nigeria, family values, Christian values, which I 100% attribute to my parents and the sort of family that I grew up in as well. And that value, the community values as well. So not wanting to, I guess, do things only on my own, but sort of looking for, okay, what what community can I join, or who can I work with in terms of again providing solutions, that sort of thing. So I would definitely say that has contributed a lot to the way that I sort of see life as well. But and it's something that it's 100% can also be recreated no matter where you grow up as well. That's me. The top left corner is me working. It's a sort of workshop. So this is what I explained earlier on in terms of being a safety engineer. So you work with different engineers. You're looking at drawings and trying to understand, what can go wrong in a particular plant, and it's a brainstorming session. So that's me working there. The top right is me also on site working on a pilot plant for green hydrogen. So where I was sort of looking through the instrumentation, so the plants, just looking at, okay, what are the numbers saying, and do they make sense, and that sort of thing. And then the bottom right is the bottom picture is me working on site on a railway infrastructure project as well. And in the middle is really something I'm really proud of, and it's also something that was a test of my it also grew my resilience, as well as me getting chartered as an engineer. Again, I had to work with this involved me sort of understanding what my impact has been as an engineer, and working with different people to ensure that I was able to achieve this. I would say that this is not me. This is not only an achievement for me, but it's a combination of different different people's efforts as well. So yeah, those are those pictures. And then if you look at, I did speak about volunteering as well, and you very kindly read that out in my bio as well, Tammy. And so this is me working with students with a student with the Association for Black and Minority Engineers as well, where we do like mock interviews to ensure that people generally, before students start work, they understand that they've gone through the process of interviews, and they know what to expect. And I do like to, again, I guess, speaking to your question about presenting technical information to a non-technical audience. This is me, a blog that I wrote, and also speaking to a group of engineers and non-engineers as well on the bottom right, about hydrogen and its use as a part of the energy transition, and helping to curb climate change as well. So if we go to the next slide, okay, and then this is me with the awards that I won. So I've won so far. So that's the Young Woman Engineer Award on the left, and the top 50 women in engineering on the right as well. So yeah, very, very proud of those achievements as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
In our Teens Academy, we've been learning about temperaments and personalities. Knowing your temperament and values really helps you understand why you act the way you do. It's a big part of figuring out who you are and what matters most to you. So my question to you is, what is your temperament, and how does it play out when leading collaborative projects across countries and cultures?
Yes, I'll say in terms of my temperament, how that plays out when leading projects, it for me, the main thing I'll say is I'm able to identify gaps in the way people work and fill in those gaps. And that's, again, drawing to what I mentioned before in terms of attention to detail. So that's the main thing. And I would also say, being self-aware. I would also not, sometimes because you can take a personal temperament test, right, to understand what your temperament is. But I try not to sort of box myself into a specific temperament, because I would say, it helps me to harness my strengths differently in different, depending on what situation I'm in as well. But yeah, I'll definitely say, that helps me, understanding my attention to detail and all of that helps me to harness that power as well.
I'm the kind of person who needs quiet to focus, while my friend thrives in chaos. Even when we're studying the same thing, we go about it totally differently. In your work as an engineer, how has your personality or temperament affected the way you work or solve problems?
So I'll say, being helping to understanding my personality. I'll say my personality is one that sort of is quite adaptive, depending on what I'm working, who I'm working with as well. But I'll say one of the things that helps me work well and solve problems is being able to understand. So self-awareness, and also helping me, and also communicating with others, because I mentioned communication because it helps that, when you communicate with others, you avoid misconceptions or you avoid misinterpretations of scenarios as well. So sometimes, for example, again, attention to detail, right? I might want to sort of make sure that everything is, should be 100% right. But if I'm working with somebody that doesn't have maybe that attention to detail, it may come across as me being, wanting to be nitpicky about things. So being self-aware and communicating with others in the team, I think, is the most important thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sometimes I see people doing things just to get ahead, even if it's against what they believe, right? It makes me wonder, have you ever had to make a tough decision between your values and your success?
So I would say not really in a big way, like maybe, someone offering me a bribe. Thank God I haven't had to, face that. But I would say, in terms of having to make those tough decisions, I think sometimes it helps when you start to show people already the kind of values that you have. So I'll say, there are micro opportunities sort of to so it's not until it's a big thing, right? So sometimes it might be a case of, okay, should we lie or should we, make fun of other people? If people can see that, your value, you don't have those sort of values, then I think that also helps in avoiding those sort of situations. But I think definitely, just living out your values daily and seizing those little opportunities as well to sort of, show that, okay, this is the kind of person I am, which is what I try to do on a daily basis as well, would help, make sure that, people just know you as, oh, this is somebody that, would not compromise. She would do her work in a certain manner, and she would also always lead with integrity and honesty as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Everyone has a unique personality, and some people are more quiet, some more outspoken, and it plays a big role in how we work with others. Engineer TT, do you know your personality? Do you know how it helps or challenges you when working with others?
So I would say it's a bit of both. So I would say sometimes it helps me and sometimes that I find some challenges with it. So I would describe myself as a bit of an ambivert. So I can and what that means, in case anybody hasn't come across that, is that sometimes you can be extroverted and talk with people, and then sometimes I can be, I'd say, described as a bit shy. But I would say again that sort of I try to, what I do to help me is constantly again being self-aware, and sometimes I go back and I think to interactions and I think to myself, okay, this is how I could have done it better. And of course not trying to make myself feel not beat myself down about it, but try to think about how I can make myself better. I think that's very important. And but then also sometimes, it's I like the fact that I can relate with people. I do like to talk with people, and when people say things, I remember things about them, and that sort of helps me build good relationships with people as well. So and which is a very important thing in at work. So it's not just about your technical knowledge, it's also about how you relate with your clients, your teams, your team members, your bosses, your subordinates, people that work for you, that sort of thing. So I think it's very important. So I'll say a bit of both, but it's about how you manage that as well.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining to meet Engineer TT. It has been an inspirational session so far. We have now come to the end, but we would like to take a few questions from the audience. A question from Aya. Thank you, Aya, from the question, which is, I wanted to study electrical engineering, but then I realized I don't know how an engineer's lifestyle is like. Can you tell me how I know if engineering is for me or isn't for me?
So I'd say that there's not one. I really like that question. Thank you for that. I would say there's not one lifestyle for engineers in particular. And so it's about, being sort of understanding what works for you. So you can be an engineer that loves to be on site, and if you love to be on site working with working or traveling, every time, ever so often, that could also be, that's something that you could do. There are some engineers that work remotely, they work from home and that sort of thing as well. So it depends on what you want. In terms of the question about how do I find out whether or not to be an engineer, I would say, first of all, open your mind up to it. I think it's a really great career, but obviously I'm biased because I work as an engineer. But also what I would say is, there are different opportunities, like there are different what's the word? There are different organizations, such as the AFB, Association for Black and Minority Engineers in the UK, and also, even the IET as well. They do a lot of events whereby you can sort of, first of all, get to see what an engineer's life is about, and interact with real life engineers as well, so that you can ask these questions, and you can just sort of find out a bit more about what they do. Also, you can make use of digital resources as well. There are lots of videos about people, and they describe what they do as well. But I'll definitely say, depending on what your personality is like, depending on what you want to achieve, depending on, you could even work in different industries as well, depending on what sort of solutions appeal to you, or what sort of industries you want to make an impact in as well. I'll definitely say, check it out, and yeah, just be open to it. I think there's something for everyone in engineering.
We have another question
Okay.
from Javina. Thank you for your question. Engineer TT, Javina would like to know, what do you love about engineering that made it significant and made it stand out to you against other fields or career paths?
So I'll say, definitely being able to provide solutions to problems or challenges we have. And I think even just from like growing up, and when I was sort of understanding what engineering is about, and even up till now, it still amazes me, even as an engineer working in a particular field, or I don't work in all fields, right? It's understanding how much engineers have, an impact in everything that everything around our lives, right? So if you think about anything in our food, in our in our food, in the energy, the way we have energy, the way we communicate, the way we travel, the houses we live in, everything, if you look around you, everything you can see and touch around you, or use around you, an engineer is probably involved in it. So that's why I would say, it's a really enjoyable career for me.
Thank you, Engineer CT. Our next section is on leadership. Every team here is a leader in the making, and leadership skills now help us build confidence, make good decisions, and positively influence the world around us. So, my question to you is, in your own words, what does being a good leader mean to you?
I like that question. I think for me, I would definitely say a good leader is someone that can harness the strengths of their team members to achieve a goal, and also for everyone to grow in the process. So I think it's all around success, that sort of thing, but also helping others to understand what their strengths are. And sometimes that can be the tough part as well, because human beings are all different, but it really takes a lot of skill and effort for you to look at each person and think to themselves, okay, you know each of you are sort of different, but this is what I can see this potential in you, and I can sort of draw it out of you and make you better in the process as well. So yeah, that's how I'll define leadership.
Sometimes I feel like leadership is extended of me, but I'm still figuring out if it's something I actually want. What made you say yes to leadership in your career? What is something you chased or something that you found?
So I'll say it's it kind of I'll say when people sort of see the way you take ownership of projects, and how you take tasks as well, how you respond to being stretched, or sometimes if you ask for stretch projects yourself, which is basically which is pretty much I don't know about this thing, but I would you know I'm happy to sort of get into it, which is I think something I did even in my sort of my first job. Anything they said, oh, we need somebody to do this, I'll be like, oh yes, I could, I can do this. And to be honest, that's even my attitude as well, generally, even up till now, because I believe, you only grow when you try out new things, and when you do new things, that's when you sort of realize that, oh, I can actually do this. So I would say, when people see how well you kind of cope in these situations, or how you cope in these situations, that sort of helps you, um that helps you understand how you will be when you are a leader, right? And I would say, when you are still, I know you mentioned something about, you're still figuring out if leadership is something that you want. I'll definitely say, sit with yourself and sort of think through it, and think to yourself, what is it about leadership that is giving you second thoughts, and understand if it's something external. Maybe you just don't want to, in which case maybe you don't want to lead in a particular situation, maybe you prefer to lead in another situation. Or if it's internal, and then that's something like, are you afraid of failure? Do you not like maybe interacting with people? So, just sort of sit with yourself and understand that a bit better. It will be unique to you, and then when you understand what the challenges are, then you can find how to sort of yeah, work towards that. So what would you say, what about leadership though would excite you, if you could, just talk about that in the chat? Maybe a few people can put in what they like most about leadership in general as a concept. Yeah. Yeah, that opportunity to show, how authentic you are, or what's your, yeah, how can you sort of show people that a particular, I'm this particular way, but this is how I approach leadership. I quite like that, because a lot of times when we think about leadership, we might have a particular, you know picture in our head, but then we want to have, if we have different types of leaders, then we can also sort of work with, understanding that different people are different, can approach leadership differently as well. Yeah, yeah, love it. I love the answers coming through. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Passion is very important as well. Yeah, passion. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Yeah, you get to grow your patience as well. Yes, definitely.
Engineer TT, who are some leaders that inspire you, and what qualities do you admire in them?
So I'll say, in terms of leadership, different people, I would say, in terms of, I have different people that they have different, they have specific characteristics, such as, like, resilience and all of that, resilience, confidence, boldness, all the things that we've talked about. And I noticed that in my family, in the friend in the and in different people that I work with as well. But one person I'll say that stands out to me, which is quite interesting, is Michelle Obama. And that's because, just reading through her story, and reading through how, like, the different things she has had to do in her life, it's that spirit of resilience, and that spirit of not being able to, not taking no for an answer, sort of stepping out of what was considered normal to her, and even being able to lead as well without necessarily authority, right? Because even a lot of what we know about her, right, is that she was that she's Barack Obama's wife, right, the former president of the United States. And a lot of what she had to do was not really with any authority, so that sort of thing. Yeah, so yeah, definitely, if you can let us know what other leaders inspire you, and maybe what about them inspires you about them as well. Yeah. Yeah, I quite like Barack Obama himself as well. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yes, definitely. Dora Quinley as well. Very bold, confident, not value driven. She, she stood for her values, and, was and integrity as well. Yeah, so definitely, yeah, she's a brilliant person as well.
We're in a world of social media, and some people have a lot of teenagers wanting to be like them, but that doesn't always mean they're making a difference these days. These days, we're having lots of followers doesn't mean you're really making a difference. Being truly influencer means using your voice for something that matters. What makes someone a leader? Attention or impact?
So I'll definitely say impact because yes, and you're so correct. There are a lot of people that have like, lots of social media following. But then sometimes you might, hear a story as well, of somebody that's, quietly sort of doing something or I wouldn't say maybe quietly is not the right word, but doing something, but not many people are aware of it. But I want to be a bit greedy and say, yes, have impact. And then use the attention to be able to then steward the ability of impact because and this is something I've learned recently because I think when you then have attention you can then bring the world's attention to good things, right? Because as you say, there are lots of people that have that attention for all the wrong reasons, and we are negatively impacting the whole society. So if you are doing something good, don't be afraid to shout about it. Don't be afraid to get that attention on you and on the impact that you're making. And that you never know what that triggers in other people as well. And maybe they would also be inspired to create impact as well. So yeah, I would say a bit of both, but obviously, focusing on impact and making sure that, we do the right things for the right reasons. Yeah.
We'll conclude this section on leadership with this question. What advice would you give to young people who want to lead but struggle with confidence or fear of failure?
So I would say that, yeah, don't be afraid to fail. And I know that sounds, easier said than done. But I'll definitely I want to leave you with some sort of I guess with I was thinking about this and I thought, okay, let's use something that we can remember. So be brave, basically, right? Be brave. So the B stands for, believing in yourself. So definitely believe in yourself. I know you that one that desire to lead is coming from somewhere, and so that's the reason. And you need to tap into that, and yes, you might not be confident, but you might not necessarily start off confident, but a lot of people that you see that are confident right now didn't start off confident, and they also have some um failures or challenges as well that they've faced before. And then I'll definitely say as well, if you do fail, don't forget to rise after that. So the R is for rise, and I would also actually change that to reflect. So even if you do succeed, go back and reflect. I think that's been a recurring theme I've talked about previously throughout this session, right? So reflect and be self-aware. So self-awareness is the way that you sort of grow and you learn more about yourself, and you know where your strengths are, so you can lean into them, and what your weaknesses or your areas of improvement are, so that you can work on them as well. The A stands for asking for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. So just because you're a leader doesn't mean you're expected to know everything. So, lean into your team, understand what each person's strength is, and know how, you can always, ask for help. Ask for help even outside of your team as well. Ask, older people as well for help, people that have gone before you, even people that are younger than you as well, ask for help. Don't be afraid to voice your ideas. Use your voice. That's the V. So the V is for using your voice. Use your voice. And sometimes you might think, oh, but everybody's saying the same thing, but yeah, your voice is unique, so definitely don't be afraid to use that. And I'll say, encourage others. That's the E. So the E is for encouraging others. So encourage others with your success stories, with your failure stories, or with the times where you had to go and over again. So yeah, don't be afraid to just think about, and I think that also helps sometimes when we think fear of failure, we're thinking about ourselves, but then think about how how your story would help others as well. So that helps take the attention from yourself and onto other people. So in other words, be brave, believe in yourself, reflect after every scenario, ask for help, don't be afraid to use your voice, and encourage others. So yeah, be brave. In summary.
Thank you so much, Engineer TT, for sharing your journey with us.
You're
Just before
welcome.
we wrap it up, just a final question from us in 1 minute. If you could go back in time and tell your teenage self one thing, what would it be?
So I'll say there's like don't be afraid of failure, and there's growth in the process. That's what I'll tell my teenage self. Yeah, there's growth in the process, and be focused on, like, don't be afraid to have goals and be flexible on how you get there as well, and just enjoy the ride. Yeah, I'll just say, enjoy the ride. Yeah.
We have one final question from the Q&A from Mine.
Yes.
Describe a time you had to share technical information with a non-technical audience.
Oh, okay. So I do that quite a bit with in terms of going into schools and speaking about engineering to students. So I quite liked, for example, going into a primary school to speak to them about, what chemical engineers do in the process of making household bleach. And I think that just, was so interesting because it was, and then I was able to sort of, explain to them what an engineer or what a chemical engineer could do in different areas of, or in different parts of that process, right? And it's the same, whatever process it is, making chocolates, making chocolates, doing all sorts of things. So I think that's just an important way to sort of, speak about um engineering, or technically, generally. I think that's an important thing about communication. You should be able to sort of look at your audience and think, okay, what do they know and what do I want them to know and how can I, get them there? So speaking to them about it, I think they really enjoyed it, and their eyes were open to see how, the process looks like, and how an engineer could contribute to that.
Thank you very much, Engineer Titty, for your time. You've taught us that even if things don't go as planned, you should always persevere, and with hard work, you can do anything. To every teen listening, you can become anyone you want to. You may not know what it is that you want to become now, but just keep working hard and being true to yourself, and you will get there. I would like to announce that the next Teen Talk series is on the 13th of August with a lawyer, Tuia Tembo. Yes, a lawyer. Please scan the QR code and register for the next session. We would love you to join us for another inspirational Teen Talk series. Many thanks to our guest speaker, Engineer Titty, and congratulations on all of your awards. Thank you
very much.
Thank you to our teen facilitators for leading a wonderful webinar, Temi, Pearl, Precious, Bummy, Radiant, Cora, and myself. Thank you to every parent who joined today. Your support means a lot as we grow and develop into bright adults. And finally, many thanks to every young person that joined, interacted, and learned from this Teen Talk series. And until next time, it's bye from us.